All right, we're recording now. And let's get the transcript going. Okay, I think it's on now. Good. I'm going to go check the progress file. That would be here, here. Okay, so I didn't write down what we did on the 11th, but we could, I don't want to, all right, I think what we did is we worked with CSV some more. Does anybody have a different recollection? Nobody? Okay, so Eric says that's what we did. So I believe Eric. So Santana, is there anything in particular I can help you with?
No, I think I'll be fine. If anything, there is the recording, which I can always just like run back and go look at that too if I ever get lost enough.
Yes, and the recording is online. I saw that I hadn't done that already, but it's online now. Okay, other questions?
I have a question from Zybooks. So it's in chapter 5.3.
5.3, let me skip over to the browser. 5.3, more while examples. Go ahead. Which one would you like to work on? Hello? Alvin, was it you asking
Yeah,
the question?
yeah, it was me. So 5.3 point, like the first one, and I just want to go over question 3. So 5.3.1, and then I think it was like it says what is num_b after the second and before the third iteration. So 5.3.1.
Okay, and it's interesting. This one is a challenge. What are you supposed to do?
Wait, I think I might be, or we might be looking at a different one. It says 5.3.1 participation activity.
Oh, okay.
Loop example.
Right. Loop
Yeah,
example,
that's
greatest
one.
common
And
divisor.
so question 3 and 4.
Okay. All right, so the participation activity seems to be referring back to the code that comes before it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What is num_b after the second and before the third iteration? Okay. So num_b is the second positive integer. So while num_a is not num_b. Okay, now is the input values of 15 and 20, 15 and 10. So 15 is not equal to 10. If 15 is greater than 10, num_a equals 15 minus 10. So num_a is 5. And then it loops again. If 5 is not equal to 10, then if 5 is greater than 10, else it's not, as that's false. So 10 is equal to 10 minus 5, so it's going to be 5.
Yeah, actually, I understood now. I was actually just looking at the wrong number. I wasn't using 15 and 10. I think it was using like 20 and 15. But So
Okay.
I understand.
Glad I could help.
Alright.
Next question, please. Anybody? Okay, so no general review, no book questions, no project questions. Okay. So,
Oh, actually, I have a question about the project.
go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm having trouble figuring out how to make it go from a list to a dictionary. And I know that we did it, and I like had it, but it's not working for some like I just haven't figured it out again since we've done it like last week.
Okay. Can you give me some context? Where in your project are you going from a list to a dictionary?
So when you do the input file read lines, it saves it as a list, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I have to enumerate it into a dictionary where the two values are the word and the like index within the list or index within the dictionary.
Uh-huh.
And so then I'm having trouble like enumerating it and saving it as a dictionary. Like every time I do it, it just doesn't allow me to save it.
Okay, so let's say this is the list of the words. Hello, yes, no, and hello, right? So that is the equivalent of having read in the whole Shelley file. True? Okay. So for a word in, whoops, that doesn't mean anything. So L equals, okay, now it's a list. In L, we have this other dictionary, D. And well, I don't want to write the whole, I don't want to write this part of the program because this part of the program contains some code that is special. So what can I do for you here? I'll just do this. So if the word is in D, I'll print, excuse me, word is already in the dictionary. So once again, I don't want to do exactly what the project is. So else, you can say something like the word, and this is what's putting it into the dictionary. That's the key going in, and then here's the value being assigned to the key. All right. So now I'll print D. So when I run this, I expect this message will be printed once. And that'll be because of the second hello. And I expect D will have 3 members in it. Hello, yes, and no. Okay, so let's try that. Okay. Henry, does this example help your understanding?
I believe so, yes.
Awesome. And I didn't give too much away. All right, other questions, please? Okay, I'm going to put a file in the chat. Let's see. I'm going to put a link to Japanese CSV into the chat. Okay, so if you can download that and then add it to Replit. So I have that here, and this is what the file looks like. So it's a CSV file. And as it turns out, Python is like so chill with alternate character sets. So all strings in Python are Unicode, meaning that they support all the different fonts and characters, all the different characters from all the different languages. And it does it with no muss, no fuss. It's without breaking a sweat. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is write a program. Let me give you a sample of what I hope to achieve. So new tab, all right, new window. And I'll be with you in just a moment. Okay, ready to show. Okay, so here's where I want us to end up. So Python, what's the name? Main and Japanese. Now notice I'm in the terminal and I'm saying Python, the name of the program, and then a file name. Okay, so it clears the screen, does one of these nice little menu kind of things. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to select 3, and that means sometimes it's going to ask me, it's going to tell me Japanese, and I should answer in English. Sometimes it will ask in English, and I should answer in Japanese. That's what mixture means. Okay, so good morning. And now it's waiting for me to think about it, give an answer, and then it prints the answer. And now it's waiting on me to move on to the next question. So to run is that. And oops, I got a little problem in the data. Pay no attention. Okay, that's better. Press enter to see the answer. There's to see. To stand. Good evening. Is that. Everybody get the idea? At any time, you can type in quit. And it says, would you like to go through the whole deck again? And I'm going to say no, and it exits the program. Okay? So that's where I'd like us to end up at. So let's write the program. And we need to learn one new thing, and then the remainder is practice. So the one new thing is how to get access to the command line. Now, this is the command line. So let me go to here and erase that. So say import, no, from sys import argv. Now print argv. Very simple program. Okay, so I said Python space the name of the program and then nothing else. There's nothing else out here, see? Nothing up my sleeve. So argv contained the name of the program. So now let's try giving it a file, like what would be a file name. So one. So notice that this argument is now part of argv. Argv will always be defined once you've imported it, and it will always have at least one member. And the first member is always the name of the program. Okay? So for instance, if I just duplicated main.py and called it foo.py, and I ran foo.py, the first argument is again the name of the program. And by the way, now you're getting the idea of how this this works. If name equals main, okay, so if I run that again, and that's not the right file, so here's main. So Python can tell which one is the file that you actually ran by looking at the first member of argv. So here's why it's important to master argv. That way I could say Python main.py, and I could give it Japanese. Or I could run it again and maybe I have anatomy. Anatomy. You see how I can run the program over and over and over again using different files. And because the file name wasn't built into the source code, I can switch from file to file to file without having to touch the source code. That's a big win. Okay? So this is a great point in the course to introduce argv, because you could actually use this program in your studies and you won't be limited to just Japanese, right? You can make a file, a CSV file, to give you flashcards on any of your subjects. Okay. Okay, any questions about argv? Okay. How many arguments were there? Do the length of argv. And how about this? If the length of argv is greater than 1, not 0, is greater than 1, then okay, let's try that. Whoops. If the length of argv, oh, I forgot a parenthesis, didn't I? There and there, wrong language. Okay. However, if I didn't give it any extra arguments, so there I'm not giving it, then that other line won't be printed. So the length of argv can also tell you how many arguments were given. Okay. So let's start our flashcard program. And the first thing I want to do is ensure there is an argument, which I just demonstrated how to do. So can you tell me how to do it? So right here, check to make sure argv sub 1 is valid. How do I do that?
If the length of argv is more or equal to 1, I guess.
Greater than 1. Yeah,
Greater one.
okay.
Yeah.
So let's do this. So if the length of argv is greater than 1, else, let's print out an error message. Okay, how's that? Now that we're using argv to leverage the command line, you're not going to be able to just push the green run button. You'll have to go to the shell and actually type in the command to run your program. So for example, Python main.py and give it an argument, which I can't see. There. All right, but this time I'll run it without the argument. You must supply a file name. Okay, anybody have any questions about that? So that was our first error check. So to keep this part of the code really brief, if I do have a file, if I do have an argument, then I'll call a function called flashcards, and I'll define the function here. Okay. Okay, so let's drill down a little bit. And what I want you to write is open the file given in argv sub 1. And we know argv sub 1 is valid because the number of arguments is greater than 1. Okay, so how would you do that? When you've got it, just tell me out loud and I'll type it in. Anybody?
Should do like input file equals open.
Mm-hmm. Okay, how about we do it with the width?
Okay.
With open argv1 as in file. Okay. You notice how I'm using pass as a placeholder so I write a little bit? Okay, let's try that. Okay, I have to supply a file name. And how about Japanese? Good. Now how about a bad file name? Ooh, there's my file not found error. So what do you say we put in a try except? So how do we do that? I'll start you out. And how do I handle the error? Begins with an E and rhymes with sept.
Except file not found.
Okay, good. Except file not found error. We can print out an error message. Okay, let's try that. We're doing good so far, I think. So I'm running the program again, giving it the name of a non-existent file. Good, could not open the, what happened? So I guess it doesn't think that it saved the whole thing. Let's try that again. There, okay. Replit does that sometimes. All right. Okay, now this is going to be a CSV program handling CSV files. I need to import something in order to get use of the package called CSV. What do I need to do? I'll start you off.
Isn't the package name just import CSV?
That's right. Okay. So now I want to tell me how to wrap the file called infile inside a CSV reader. So how do I do that?
Would it be read in file?
Nope, nope, not quite. I want to use the CSV package.
Is there like a reader.csv? Is that what we use?
Yeah, so how about R is equal to CSV dot reader in file. Okay, good. And now what I want to do is let's take a peek at what the file looks like again. So every time I get data from the CSV reader, it's going to give me a, oh, good. Yeah, I still have my error in there. Good. It's going to give me a list with 2 members, or in this case, 1 member. Okay, so for a row in R, what should I do with it? Well, I haven't really told you anything yet. So, and in fact, this code is not pleasing me right now. It sort of seems like if I do the whole program inside this one function, it's going to get really messy. It's going to get really long and hard to understand. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to divide up this code into more functions to make each function smaller and more easy to understand. How about a function that only reads the data? And this will call it. And not quite done there. Now, I need to be able to return the data to flashcards. And what I want the data to be is data will be a list of lists where each sublist is the return value from the CSV reader. Okay, so how do I make an empty list? Anybody?
Just open and close brackets.
Correct. Okay, then at the very bottom, I will return the data. That means I need to capture it here. Now here, I'll figure out whether or not I got any data. So if the length of the data is 0, then, well, is greater than 0, and then I'll write the rest of the program. The only way for the data to be 0 is either, the length of data to be 0 is either the file was empty or you got this error. So over here, I want you to tell me how to do add the row to data. How do you do that? So I want to append a row to the list called data.
Do
Anybody?
you just do the dot append thing?
Yeah, so data dot append row. So down here, I'll just do a test. I'll say if the length of the data is greater than 0, print the length of the data. So that's all I need for now for a test. You write a little, you test a little. Well, let's make sure it works with a bad file. Good. Cannot open the file, period. Now let's try with a good file. So there are 44 rows in my file. Okay, good. But I'm changing the ball game here. First, make sure the row spells right. Okay, let's go back and look at the data. And one of these is not like the rest. So whenever you work with data files, especially if the data file comes from another person or organization, you can't assume the data file is constructed properly. So line 9 in my data here, you may not have that. I think I uploaded a good data file. My line 9 is bad. So I want it to be skipped. Now we know how to skip things in a loop. So how could I do that?
Will we use a pass?
Use what?
Pass?
Pass? No, pass is
Yeah.
like an empty space filler.
Okay. So would it be break then?
Break would end the loop. I'm hoping to skip,
Okay.
which means keep the loop going. So how about if I want to make sure row has 2 items in it. So if the length of row is equal to 2, then append it. Otherwise, it'll just skip. All right, let me try that here, and I should get 43 this time. Good. So over here, always distrust data files. Okay, so actually the first part of the program is finished. So read data has built a data structure, which I call data, which is a list of lists. Let's take a look. So if the length of data is greater than 0, let's just print one of them. Data, the very first one. Let's just take a look at what's inside. See, so there's a list where the first entry is in Japanese and the second entry is in English. So I'm going to call the first entry column A, and this one is column B. All right. If the length of the data is greater than 0, which means we have some data, then let's do that menu. If you recall, I did a menu as the first thing. So it did that funky little clear screen, and then it's offering me choices. And if I type in something that's bad, it just loops again until I hit something like quit, which I got a little bug. All right, so how can I do that? I just want to get through the menu. All right. Okay.
Would it be like, would it be like input and then you would do the words? And never mind.
Well, input will be one of the statements in this function. That's true. Well, let's take a look at my model program again. All right, so now if I enter something bad, it's going to loop around again. So that suggests I'm going to need a loop. How many times am I going to loop? I don't know. That suggests it's going to be a while and not a for. Okay. So while true, keep going until you get a good answer. How about print and clear screen? So that would be print octal 33 followed by a left bracket.
We can't see it.
Oh yeah, I'm in the wrong screen.
I think you have the wrong screen. Yeah.
Yep. Thank
There we
you.
go.
1 semicolon 1 H followed by another escape bracket J and end equals nothing. Don't print a new line. So if you choose one, we'll do only column A to column B. If you choose 2, we'll do only column B to column A. And if you do 3, we'll do a mixture. And if you choose 4, it'll quit. And here's our input. So response equals input Okay. Now, how do we check to make sure that the response is the letters 1 through 4? Because notice I didn't need to, I don't need to turn this into an integer. So if the response in, I'll make a little list. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got a good response. If it's in one of those, if one of those values, break and return response. Okay, let's try this. Did I call it? Yes, I did. I called the print menu. Bad, 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 good. Okay, anybody have any questions about that? Anybody? One of the values we might get back is the letter 4. So, and that means quit. So what I'm going to do is if the mode is not equal to 4, carry on with the rest of the program. So I know for sure it'll be 1, 2, 3, or 4 because the line 30 makes sure that I don't leave the function until it's a 1, 2, 3, or 4. So if it's a 4, skip the rest of the program. So here I'll say print not a 4. There's a 3, not a 4. There's a 4. It just exits. Okay. So if it's a 1, 2, or 3, we want to go into, we want to do a whole run through the deck. So how about run through the deck? And I'll need to send it the mode and the data. Let me define that and I'll make it do nothing. Def run through the deck. And you need the mode and the data. And I will just return, just pass. And then down here, okay, so if the response is not equal to yes, so if you type in anything other than a Y, it'll break. Why do we need to do a break? Yeah, because we're missing a loop, that's why. Yeah. Okay. Let's see what this does. Break with a semicolon, that's the wrong language. Break outside of a loop. I got to indent one more time. Okay. So here's mixture. Run through the deck again, yes. Run through the deck again, yes. Run through the deck again, no. And it exits the program. So you see how I'm using pass strategically to allow me to write stubs of functions I have to elaborate upon later. Okay. Does anybody have questions? All right, so how would you write this? So shuffle the data. How do you do that? Because each time we go through the deck, I want it to be in a different order. Think way, way, way back to the beginning of this term, when the grass was green and the temperatures were pleasant.
Could you use like random, like import random or import random choice?
So yes, it's correct that what we want will come from the random module. So from random import, I'm going to go with shuffle. Because choice, you could pick one item out of the data at random with choice. That's true. But using that approach means it's possible to be asked the same question 3 times in a row. If we do a shuffle and we go through the shuffled list, then we'll get random order and each question will be asked at most once. Exactly once. So now that we have shuffle, so we only call run through the deck once per run through the whole deck, and we'll reshuffle the deck each time. For a question in the data. Now we have to start writing some code dependent upon the mode. So if the mode equals the letter 1, this is show column A, weight, then column B. And well, for now, I'll just put in a pass. Elif mode equals 2. Show column B, weight, then show column A. And for now, I'll just put in pass. Else, it must be mode 3. And this would be at random, show A or B, weight, then show the other. Okay. Okay, do you want to take a stab at that? Just try one of them. Just do this one. Just do one. Okay, anybody made progress? Okay, well, I'll do it. I'll do one, and I'm not going to do it in a way that I like. I'm not going to like this one bit, but it's a way that I imagine you might code it the first time out. So after I do that, we'll try to understand the code, and then we'll try to make it an improved version. So this is supposed to show column A, wait, and then show column B. So I want to do a clear screen first. And I've already done that once. Where is it? Oh, up here. And if I repeat it again, if I want to clear the screen over here too, I would have to duplicate that line. And I hate duplicating code. Right? Because not only that, I'd have to duplicate it there and there and here. So I don't like that at all. I could get it wrong. I could make a mistake in one of them. So that tells me, if I'm repeating code, that tells me I should make it a function. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a function called clear, and I'll print there. And now I've done the hard work only in one place. So if there's a bug, the bug exists only in one place. When I fix the bug, I only have to fix it in one place. Now contrast that with this approach, where if I have a bug here, I might fix it there, but I may have left the same bug elsewhere and I just overlooked it. So let's replace this with the clear screen. I'm still not happy that I have to repeat it. Clear. So I'm still not happy. We can improve this still further. But I am happier than repeating hard to write code multiple times. So there's a clear the screen. And print of question 0. And let's do response equals input. Press enter to see answer and do quit to exit. And I need another. Okay. And we can get rid of this pass now, obviously. So if we wait for the user to hit enter, if the response is equal to quit, then break. And that'll break the loop on line 36. So if the response is anything other than quit, we'll print the second column. And then, I hate this, but I have to repeat that code again. Yeah, I don't like this, but it works. Let's see if it works. So we've only written mode 1. Okay, so let me test the quit. Run through the deck again? No, done. All right, let's try it again. Mode 1 and hit enter. Okay, enter. Clear the screen. Sister, okay. That's 1. Well, this works pretty well, actually. And then quit and no. So to complete this program, using this naive approach, you pretty much have to, you have to duplicate all of these lines of code where the only difference is going to be, do you show question 0 first or question 1 first? That's the only difference between these 3 sections of code. What you'd have to have this here. Nope. Let me copy the right thing. Copy, paste, and paste. Okay, now the program is almost complete. So the only difference between mode 1 and mode 2 is that instead of question 0, then question 1, it would be question 1, then question 0. Wow, that seems like a real waste. There must be a better way of doing this. And then for the random one, boy, that becomes really complicated here for putting in which one you should do first. Okay, so there's got to be a way to make this a lot smaller and cleaner and clearer. That is what I want you to think about. Now, Thursday is a review day. Your midterm is the following. So it's your midterm is a week from today. Thursday is review. Next Thursday, we'll come back and we'll finish this program. But in the meantime, your assignment, an unofficial assignment, is to think about how you could make this optimally short, optimally short and clean and precise without duplicating much code. That says perhaps a function, but there's a little bit more to it. So what I'm going to do is make sure you have this code. I will try to download it. Well, actually, it's just easier if I cut and paste. So here's the whole file. Wow, our programs are getting pretty long. This one is 88 lines long right now, and it's not finished yet. So good on us. So let me save this to desktop flashcards.py. And I'm going to upload it to MediaFire there, and upload. And that's going to be, where did I put it? I don't remember where I put it. Oh, well, it must be in the downloads right now, right? No. I didn't download it yet. Where did I put it? This is like, me all the time. So where did I put this? Open in the Finder. Open in the Finder. Okay. Okay, it's in my desktop. Okay. Boy, this is behaving strangely. Why isn't it uploading? It still hasn't uploaded. What the heck is going on? All right, let me try it again. Folks, I do not have an explanation. It still says preparing. Give me a break. I'll try one more time. Boy, look how screwed up this site is today. I have to add it again. Choose for upload. Begin upload. Ah, it's finally uploaded. Okay, so now I can give you a link and you can download it if you wish. It's going in the chat. All right. So your assignment over the next week and a half is to figure out how to abstract these three sets of nearly identical code in such a way that you have almost no code duplication. All right, because look at this. The only difference between mode 1 and mode 2 in all these, 10 lines of code is a 1 here and a 0 there versus a 0 here and a 1 there. Surely we could do better than that. Okay? Does anybody have any questions? Okay, then. If no one has questions, then that's what I have for today. So I'll see you on Thursday, where you must bring your questions for review to our midterm review. Okay, stay safe, everybody. Stay warm and have some fun outside if you can. If not, stay inside and get some nice hot chocolate and look at the beautiful lake. Okay? Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a good one.